something that Dr. Malone said about Dr. Gert van den Bosch. I think the key point he was making is, had we been using a vaccine that could sterilize the virus, that could stop transmission, we would not be in this situation, whether or not the vaccine is needed. And the problem here is this vaccine does not stop infection, does not sterilize the virus, so it does not stop the transmission. You can never, ever get to population herd immunity 100% with these vaccines. Impossible. Now, and there's also, Dr. Malone mentioned the data. We have some brand new data from the UK and Scotland this week, the third week of reporting for 2022, which demonstrates conclusively that the vaccine is driving, the second dose and third booster dose is driving massive infections in the vaccinated, and it is a big, big problem. In terms of masks, and I know Steve will speak eloquently too, we pulled together 150 studies published in the Brownstone, and we could say this. When we looked at all of the comparative studies, there are just two RCTs, which is one is the Danish mask study, and that had a problem to be published. That shows basically that the masks are ineffective in terms of curbing infection. There was one RCT, cluster randomized, out of Bangladesh. It went from zero effect to about a 13%, very modest reduction in risk. The body of evidence, and I speak as an evidence-based medicine specialist, the entire body of evidence tells us conclusively that the blue surgical masks that we've been using and the white masks, the man-made masks, are largely and highly ineffective. They do not stop transmission, and every single place in America that we looked at, or the globe, where you impose a mask mandate, the actual infections increase. So
this was actually one instance where Dr. Fauci was right first, before he decided. So, you know, Mr. Kirsch, just real quickly describe who you are, how you got involved in this, and what point you want to make.
Sure. My name is Steve Kirsch. I used to be a high-tech executive. My company was shut down. I started the COVID-19 Early Treatment Fund, was featured on 60 Minutes for discovery of, or for the funding of fluvoxamine, which has proven to be reduced death by a factor of 12, and still the NIH won't recommend it for some reason. And I'm also the founder of the Vaccine Safety Research Foundation.
Okay, you have a mask there you want to talk about?
Yeah, so there are only two randomized studies that have been done for masks and COVID. And they looked at cloth masks and surgical masks. And in both studies, there was zero effect. So the most recent one was the Bangladesh study. And what we did is we got a hold of the original data set that was used for the paper, and we did the graphs. There is no difference at all between wearing a cloth mask and not wearing a cloth mask. The curves were identical, and they misrepresented it in the study as showing that it works. If you actually look at the data and you plot the data, and you can get the data because it's publicly available, you will find that the curves are identical. There is no difference between the cloth masks, and the surgical masks were in between the cloth masks. So if you had a red cloth mask, it worked. If you had a purple cloth mask, it didn't work at all, and the surgical masks were in between the two. In other words, it's all statistical noise. These masks do not work at all, and the N95 masks are maybe slightly better, but only for a very short amount of time. If you're in a room with someone for any amount of time, even with an N95, it's not going to work. The only mask that is proven to work is the one that they don't tell people about and that nobody wears. This is the only mask that works. So this is called a P100 mask. It is 150 times more effective than an N95 mask. This is the only mask that has a chance of working. It's never been tested for the coronavirus, but it should be 150 times better than almost zero.
I'm a little reluctant to even have you talk about it because I'm afraid the Biden administration just might allocate about $100 billion to send those out to everybody.
Yeah. But here's what it's like. So you put this arm like this, and then you strap it
and then you talk to people just like this, and this will filter it out. But there's a
Again,
problem.
I'm afraid that I'm afraid they're going to require that for air travel. So, okay.
But one important thing is that this mask works only in one direction. It will work to protect you,
But not somebody
but there's no filter on the outside. Because if it was filtered on the outside, you wouldn't be able to breathe.
Okay.
So it works, but it only works one way. And if they were really serious about protecting the American public, they would require everyone to wear this, in which case everyone would rebel and we would have no mask mandate.
And of course, one other point on masks, and we don't have a psychiatrist unless somebody wants to speak to this, but I think it's obvious. I don't think we really need the harm done to our children in terms of development, speech. I mean, all these things have been written about widely. I mean, just even their oxygen levels.
Senator Johnson, the